Hi, welcome to Linux channel. See, while I was taking sessions to my students, I was discussing about kernel interfaces and various ways we can communicate from user space to the kernel space, to and fro. So while having the conversation, this is quite happens frequently as when you do anything programming in kernel space. You may have some variables or configuration, something you need to set it from user space, so then you have various ways to do that. So while having a conversation, coincidentally I also got a query from a viewer. As you can see here, it came quite recently. He asks about various interfaces. You can see there why there are so many informations. Maybe he meant interfaces. Okay, so we have a device file in this, and then we have the other formats, etc. So I just kind of replied him. Other than that, about this I covered time to time in my various episodes in the past. Okay, but again I thought, let me take one exclusive video about this kernel interfaces actually. So it may not be the right term, calling these are these as interfaces. It's just various ways you can communicate. So as I covered in my earlier episodes, you have various options available. If you go to Linux channel website, as I always say, watch my video episodes through the website, where you can navigate the specific topics and go through the same. So you can go to this videos, and you can see under the kernel programming I covered this proxies and even ip-utils. I have shot a few episodes. Those are in the old website, which I need to port it to this new website. So you can see there are various episodes I covered about the same. So you can see this is about proc file system, this is about the sysfs and stuff. There are also various episodes I covered which is about the sysfs as a part of how you communicate Raspberry Pi, GPIO pins and stuff like that, which are not been published over here, but in YouTube if you go, you can find those video episodes which I shot earlier. Okay, so you can go here, some 3-4 years back I shot some extensive multi-episode video series on the same. Okay, so somewhere over here you should able to see. Okay, you can see here Raspberry Pi GPIO pins. It's actually not about GPIO pins, it's more about this sysfs interface. Okay, although the title says, you can see here it is via sysfs interface. So it's it's about how it happens from user space to the kernel space via that sysfs. So as a part of that, you can cover, we can see here, if you are writing any kernel modules or kernel code, an important thing is you need to get data from kernel to user space, stuff like that. In that cases, you can also write something like character driver, if it is like more like a stream like data. Say for instance, if you are getting some network packets, you are tapping network packets, and you need to get it from kernel space to user space. Again, there are various ways to do that. It is not that you have to do only in this specific way. There are various ways to do that. So as I said, like an example, if you want to get packets from kernel space to user space, if you don't want to use like say TUNTAP interface or raw sockets or something like that, I even did once doing via character driver. This specifically I was teaching to a student who is she is working in Broadcom, and as an example I was doing this code where you can get packets from kernel to user space via something like character driver. So that is one possibility is there. That's why it's like a stream like data. So the packets are keep coming and you are tapping it somewhere in the kernel, and then you are getting it via this character driver. Okay, so that is one possibility. Again, you can also write something called netlink sockets. The netlink socket itself is a interesting approach where you can get data from kernel to user space and vice versa. Okay, so something like netlink sockets is also possible, and of course you have some static configuration variables, then you can use proxies and stuff like that. So let me just summarize. See, let me just show you the big picture. See, you have the kernel space, and let's imagine you have all your drivers in the bottom layer, and you have the upper layers, something like all this kernel interface to the user space. Okay, so let's assume this is your kernel space and this is your user space. So yeah, so you want to send some data to and fro. You have various options. Like I said, you can do via proc, you can do via sysfs. Some people call this as procfs also, and you can have this typical IOCTL APIs. Okay, if this IOCTL API gives like a programming way of approach, so each has its own advantages and its limitations and disadvantages and stuff. So similarly, you can even write a char driver. You can also have netlink sockets. So perhaps sometime I may cover a video episode on netlink sockets. This long ago I have used netlink sockets for my traffic squeezer, so I know very well using netlink sockets. The only issue with the netlink sockets is it's kind of very rare to get some proper documentation. I mean, it's not like you get extensive documentation everywhere. It is quite limited, and you need to find documentation what to do in the kernel side and what to do in the user space side, because it's a socket we are doing establishing between kernel and user space. Okay, so if you go that way, even now you can find a netlink socket, a sample code, something you can find. You can see here, some examples here and there you can find. Please bear in mind this must have done for an old kernel, and if you just download this example and compile it, you may get some compilation errors because it is done for a some older version kernel. You can see this article posted 14 years ago, so that is a long time where it may be be compatible for 2.x kernel or something like that. Okay, 2.14 or 2.16, something like that, but now it may fail to work. So but more or less you can see how they have approached, and sometimes even that APIs and this values they pass must have changed. Okay, so this is the reason when I was doing my traffic squeezer and I used this netlink sockets to communicate to pass the configuration variables from users to kernel space and get some stats and other things from kernel space to user space. I felt it's not that user friendly, and it's little cumbersome, and because of all this weird syntax it had. Okay, so anyway, this is one way you can do that. It will give you almost like a socket like approach. You can see here receive message and message stuff, so it is like writing any other socket code. So this is one approach, it is there. You can see it's just like writing regular socket. So one side you have the user space code, one side you have the kernel space code. You can see here, and he is writing those handlers hello in it, and then he is registering those handlers. Receive message, whenever a message is received, hopefully this API is linked and it is doing that. So this is one option is there. So typically you can use netlink sockets, and the same way character driver, this again as I said it is a good approach where you need something like a stream like data, which means you keep reading it and it will be keep coming out. You don't need to close anything. So unlike procfs, if you are doing some packet capture via proc, it's like you need to constantly fopen and read the file and then close it and and again you need to keep doing it. So this is not the right way to do via proc file system. So proc file system is more suited for doing some configuration settings and getting any stats and stuff like that. You can do proc file system. Sysfs is again similar in terms of its objective. See, what I meant is leave about the intricacies, how you implement them as per those examples. The main objective is for what architecturally you want to pick and how you can leverage that option. So that's more important. It's not that you have various options. So yeah, we have various options, but how do you use them? Okay, for what purpose you can use. So this is one thing. It is applicable if you are writing some extensive stack or something else in the kernel space, and you have various options which you can freely to pick. But there are chances that in case you have any network drivers or something you are writing, for that network drivers at any cost you need to support some of these interfaces. Okay, so in that case you have to support whatever it is meant. Say for instance, you set any MTU for a network card, you need to use this IOCTL API, and using that you can get as well as set the MTU and even Ethernet hardware address and stuff like that. So in that case you need to use at any cost IOCTL. Again, this is something I extensively discussed in few episodes where I covered if-config the Linux channel. I once covered various episodes on if-config comes under the project. You can see here if-config project. It comes under a project called ip-utils or something like that. Okay, unit like blah 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 ip-utils. So you can see various utilities you can find in ip-utils. So somewhere here you should find ping and stuff, either ip-utils or net-utils, net-tools or something like that. Okay, under that this comes net-tools. Yeah, you can see download if-config source. Yeah, see, you can see here it is a part of net-tools project. Okay, I have covered again extensive video episodes on the same. The Linux channel. Yeah, you can see here I covered video episodes, and you can see I have ported that article. So you can see here various episodes on the same. So if you go to the source code of this NetTools, yeah, NetTools source code. So perhaps we get to their GitHub. You can see the if-config source code, and you can see various IOCTL APIs. They should call to get that information. Okay. So you can see here this they are getting that system that interface flags, versus this is to get that interface netmask. And this is this is that interface MTU and stuff, as I said. So you can see here if you want an interface which you want to use it in a programmatic way, then you can use this IOCTL APIs. So that is this approach, where the objective is you have a container, you pass a data structure and you pass a query, and then you send it to the kernel. Kernel will populate and send it back to the user space. Similarly, this is for set or get option. If you want to set something, then you take a container or a data structure, you populate the values and then you send it to the kernel with an instruction or a command. The kernel will take, apply it, and then send you that return value, and that becomes your set command. So either you can do set or get via IOCTL APIs. So that is this IOCTL API. So you can see here if you want to do some packet capture, this is not a effective way, although you can do with some hack, but it's not well suited, something like that. So you can see this is one way to do. Otherwise you can use character driver, otherwise you can do netlink sockets, otherwise sysfs, procfs. If it is procfs, go through my episode channel videos. You can see here Why I always discuss proc is this is a very easy foolproof way if you are a beginner to get some quick interface between kernel to user space. So if you are writing some code, then you want to set some configuration. It's a very dumb easy way which always works, reliable, but bear in mind the older kernel you use, there should be some minor changes to be done. If it is newer kernel, this code what I discussed should be fine actually. So you can see here, in the case of proc, again we create this proc file, proc create, set the file permission, do the fops, and in this case it is only the read, and whenever the file is read, this is the corresponding kernel side. And the main advantage, as I always discuss, is this gives a file like approach where you can write your user side. You don't need any extensive C type of code or any such restriction. You can write the code in any language. It's just a regular file. Do a file open and then read the contents. It could be PHP, Python, Java, whatever language, or C, C++. You can just do a file access. Okay, even you can do via regular bash as well, cat command. Okay, anything you can do that. So hence you can see here it's the best way you can actually read the configuration and send the configuration to and fro, as I discussed. Again, the application of is you can see here, this you read the configuration or some statistics or some data from the kernel, whereas here you want to set it something from user space to kernel space, and so on. Here you can create a directory and organize them, and you can see here one episode after another episode I am covering various examples which you can understand this, and being an architect you can see how you can effectively use it in your project. Okay, see, the whole thing is there are two things are there. One is you learn something like a quick student, you just learned these are like alphabets. Okay, I teach you some vocabulary and alphabets. There is A B C D, A for apple, B for ball, and you have alphabets and vocabulary, the words, and then you learn grammar. But that doesn't make you a poet. Okay, so if you are a poet or if you are a novel writer, then it's like you are now an architect, and it's just not programmer is somebody who is like a typist. If I am an author of a novel, I can't write. Okay, suppose if somebody like somebody who can't handicapped, who can't write or type, but who wants to write a novel. Okay, so what they can do, they can dictate, and then they may have an assistant. He may actually enter the words in a document, and then he can still, although being disabled, he can write a novel. So similarly you have to think, this is like a programmer is somebody who can write a code, but he's not an architect. So architect is somebody who can get all the information, all this knowledge, all these examples, and then he can creatively put things together and architect a solution or a product. So hence I'm saying, if you are an architect, all these should inspire you. And time to time I do get mails that somebody may tell that it greatly helped me in terms of my project. I was stuck and I'm in some crossroads, and your video helped me and stuff. So in case you have some such success stories, you can of course discuss in comments, or you can also send in mail, so that helps me, and it also helps me to focus future episodes. See, the point is, most of the times I cover like these niche topics. So definitely my channel have very less views and very less subscribers, but I'm focused only to cover about niche topics. I'm not that interested covering some day-to-day stuff. So hence I'm saying it is having some value meant for addressing some sort of niche requirements like this, and not everyone understands the worth of the channel, something like this. So please spread the word across. If someone you find an advanced developer who is struck something or something like that, you can suggest, and as I cover these niche topics, sometimes their Q&A I may cover as a video episode itself actually. So this should help even more people and stuff. So hence I'm saying this knowledge is okay for a programmer, he cannot still comprehend what effectively I am getting. Yes, I am getting various colors, but he is not going to be an architect. An architect is like an artist who have that palette. But let's just take this analogy. Go to Amazon, you have some pastel colors, you have this palette or this stuff. Okay, it's just all this episodes or all this knowledge is like giving this color pencils or color crayons to you. That doesn't make you an artist. Okay, first you need to be an artist, then comes this media. You can use this or watercolors or any media of your choice, and you can make an art. And sometimes you can just make an art with a simple a ballpoint pen like this actually. Okay, so you can see many artists just use a single media. They can use a chalk or something like that, and they can make an art. So I'm saying media comes later, so don't get carried away with this stuff makes sense if you think beyond a programmer as an architect. Now you have all these choices how I can utilize. Similarly, if you are in cooking, you have various ingredients and vegetables and meat options. So now you can pick this combination and you can create a dish. Hence I am saying think in that way and utilize the channel in that direction. As being an architect myself, I want to kind of inspire people who kind of come with that mindset, so that I can give all the options. And this is one thing I do cover extensively in my mentorship classes as well, so that I can give all these options, where if you are a senior architect, or if you are a CTO or something, because being a CTO myself earlier, okay, so this is something I do on day-to-day basis. Hence I'm saying use this skill and then consider all these options. Okay, even if you are an artist going to an art school, you will of course be trained with various mediums, various techniques. Finally, if you are out of that art school and you want to be a mainstream artist, you can pick all these options and pick a medium of your choice and art form or art style of your choice, and then you will become an artist. So similarly, you have all these options, you have all these interfaces. If you are architecting some product, you have some kernel components, some user space components, but you want to interact between kernel to user space. You have various options. In some cases you are supposed to use what it is available there, because you are writing some network driver and it is supposed to have certain fixed interfaces, and this I covered in recent episode on FOPS actually. Okay, so you can see very recently I covered about various FOPS. You can see here it's about various FOPS. So in that case you need to populate which is applicable, don't populate which is not applicable. It is up to your choice, but as you do that you have these options. So sometimes you are forced to use certain options for that driver stuff, but other than that you have this creativity. In some cases you have full creativity where you can use either this 3 or 4 types you can use. In some cases only 1 or 2 is more suitable and more easier to do, and reliability also is a concern actually. Some are more reliable and dumb and easy, some are not like that actually, and sometimes any changes in the kernel frequently, that framework itself changes. So bear in mind that maintainability is an option you always take into consideration, and other than that ease of use. Always go with an approach which is most easier and most easy to maintain, rather than getting into some complicated thing. Say again, this is the difference. If you are a programmer, you are supposed to do something your architect requests or demands you to do. So if your manager is an architect, so if you are working in the team as a programmer, he will first architect and he will give you so and so things, requirements, how you are supposed to do. So you are just supposed to follow his commands, but you promote and then become an architect. Now you have this free will where you can take all these things into consideration, pick the one which you feel the most suited and most apt, and then start incorporating that in your project. So hope this video gives you that big picture and the deeper insight. You have various options, learn all the options, understand such options are there. First you know that options are there, and then see what are the advantages and disadvantages in each option. And then once you become an architect, you will get even more questions, but this should address in a broader way. Now you have a free will, pick the one suits, and then you can approach and incorporate in your product or a project. Okay, so hope this video is serving that purpose. So thanks a lot for joining this video. Stay tuned. Have a nice day. Bye bye.